Hello and welcome. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Tonight, Deputy Governor of Kogi State Simon Achuba impeached over alleged gross misconduct. Mr. Achuba dismisses action by lawmakers, says allegations against him not proven by investigation panel. Federal government and organized labor reach agreement on the implementation of the new national minimum wage after 3 days of intense negotiation. President Buhari promises to take the fight against substance abuse to the next level as he receives the report of the Presidential Advisory Committee on elimination of drug abuse in the country. And 28 people killed and at least 90 others hospitalized as flood wreaks havoc in Ghana, destroying over 1,000 houses in the process.
On business news tonight, 7 Nigerian banks failed stress test in central bank's latest financial stability report.
As sports news tonight, 4 players dropped as Golden Eaglets coach Manu Garba unveils his final Under-17 World Cup squad.
And from Abuja, the All Progressives Congress inaugurates campaign committees for the Kogi and Bayelsa governorship polls. Party chairman challenges members to deliver states for the APC.
It's another political drama unfolding in Kogi State, where the Deputy Governor, Simon Achuba, has been impeached by the State House of Assembly. The lawmakers had moved to impeach Mr. Achuba, citing his utterances on national television, which they described as gross misconduct. The impeachment process followed a petition signed by 21 members of the Assembly, which was presented on the floor by the Majority Leader, Abdullahi Bello. This follows the submission of a report by the committee set up by the State Chief Judge, Justice Nadir Rajana, to investigate allegations of gross misconduct against the Deputy Governor after he accused Governor Yahaya Bello of withholding his salaries and imposts since 2017.
The former Deputy Governor of the state, Elder Simon Achuba, stands removed from office. There's no implication. Justice. Gross misconduct. And of course, what do you expect? Justice has to be served. We got the recommendation of the panel and we acted upon it. We deliberated and the entire members of Kogi House of Assembly supported that the Deputy Governor should be removed from office. It's a unanimous decision.
Meanwhile, the embattled Kogi Deputy Governor is not taking the move by the lawmakers lightly. Mr. Simon Achuba, in a telephone interview with Channels Television, says the action of the lawmakers is illegal and he remains the state's number 2 man. Mr. Achuba says the report of the committee set up by the Chief Justice of the state did not indict him and therefore he cannot be impeached.
Well, impeachment has processes. And the last process of impeachment is the verdict of the panel. If the panel says the case of the complainant is proved, it means that the accused, which is the respondent in the case, can be removed. But if their case is not proved, they can't do anything concerning my office. And that is the situation. The report before the assembly said that the case brought against me is not proved. So what you are seeing is a continuation of the illegality that I've been complaining about loudly. I have been heard completely. I presented myself before the panel, and the report of the panel is out. And I will get a copy of the panel report out in no time to prove to you that what they have done is complete illegality. What they have done is nothing. I'm not going to respond to it. I am the Deputy Governor of Kogi State, and I remain the Deputy Governor of Kogi State.
And now to an averted face-off. After a 3-day marathon meeting, the federal government finally struck a deal with the workers' unions in negotiations for the full implementation of the new minimum wage and its consequential adjustments. Addressing journalists in Abuja, the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, says an agreement was reached to pay civil servants on grade levels 7 to 15 a minimum wage consequential adjustment ranging from 19% to 23.2% increase.
The Ministers of Labour and Employment, as well as representatives of the workers' unions, append their signatures on the new minimum wage consequential adjustment agreement. The document specifies what percentage of salary increase civil servants should expect as the government fully implements the 30,000 naira minimum wage.
What happened?
It took the Joint Negotiations Council 3 days to reach a consensus. The workers' union had earlier insisted on a 29% salary increase for workers on grade level 7 to 14 and 24% for grade level 15 to 17, as against the federal government's proposal of 11% salary increase for grade level 7 to 14 officers and 6.5% for grade level 15 to 17.
So just give us 30 minutes.
This difference between government's proposal and workers' demand led to the issuance of a threat of an industrial disharmony 2 weeks ago, a development that forced the federal government to resume negotiations with the workers on Tuesday, October the 15th. Three days after, this agreement is sealed and delivered to parties.
The meeting agreed that having reviewed the increase in the lowest paid person in this wage structure at 30,000 naira for the grade level 1, step 1, that the grade level 07 officers should move up by 23.2% in their wage structure, in their wages. Grade level 08, 20%. Grade level 09, that's grade level 9, 19% increase. Grade level 10 to 14, 16% increase. Grade level 15 to 17, 14% increase. That's 15, 16, 17.
Clearly speaking, there is commitment from both sides to see to it that implementation takes effect without further delay.
How will Labour be handling the issues with the states?
Simple. This guideline will also be transmitted to all our state councils, and they will work in harmony as we have worked at the center. The Joint Council, TUC and NLC will work in harmony to ensure also implementation takes effect.
By this agreement, civil servants on grade level 7 to 15 on the various wage structures can now expect some salary increase, while the federal government says its implementation takes effect from April, when the new Minimum Wage Act was signed. The fate of many workers at the state level still hangs in the balance, as many governors are opposed to the new minimum wage.
Well, let's look at the finer details of this agreement. Joining me live from Abuja is the president of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Achuba Waba. Thanks a lot for joining us on the news at 10. And indeed,
thank you very much. Good evening.
Great. It's been a really long week for you, no doubt. But I'm looking at the parties pending their signatures to the agreement today. Are you satisfied with the outcome?
Yes, it's a collective agreement agreed mutually through a collective bargaining process, which is the hallmark of industrial relation. That is a collective bargaining process which is also supported by an international convention, Convention 98 of the International Labour Organization, looking at all variables and discussing on a round table towards reaching an agreement. It shouldn't be an imposition. It should be a process of collective bargaining. So we are all satisfied that the process was open, transparent, and mutual.
All right, the way it stands now, look, the percentages have further been broken down when you look at the documents and allotted, to different cadres of workers. Some people are a bit confused about it. You have grade level 7, 23.2%, and etc. How did you determine what percentage the different grade levels deserve when you look at the breakdown?
Thank you very much. When you look at the breakdown, is the quantum. For instance, officers on grade level 7, their quantum varies from an increase of 11,000, 12,000 and above. So when we look at the quantum, is what determines actually what should be the percentage increase. Because also we said we are going to look at all variables so that no worker is at a disadvantaged position. If you take, for instance, a percentage across board, because there is difference between the minimum wage and also a wage increase, which actually usually comes together with the minimum wage. In this case, it's only the minimum wage. And it means when you increase the minimum, the person on 5, if you increase level 1, step 1 to 30,000, possibly it is the current salary for an officer on grade level 5. So if we don't move the officer on level 5, it then means the officer on grade level 1, step 1, will meet up with him. So the consequential adjustment is actually done so that there will be a table to indicate what is the quantum of increase, and therefore there will be no overlap, and also that what will be the increase will also be able to be something that is substantial for all workers at different grades.
Yeah, when you were speaking earlier, you had talked about the fact that you were satisfied with what you saw and it wasn't an imposition. But I know that some days ago, the United Labour Congress, they were complaining about the fact that they were not carried along and, negotiations were going on. What is the status of that? And is Labour really won with this decision today? I think that's my question.
Well, clearly speaking, I think the process of collective bargaining and what international conventions are clear about is that it's a process where the representative of trade unions come together, because initially NLC and TUC came in because of the fact that the process have delayed. It should be an agreement actually between the Joint Public Service Negotiating Council, which is the negotiating machinery in the core public service, because this is an implementation process between workers of the core civil service and public service and their employer, who is the federal government. And it ought to have been a negotiation process between the Joint Public Service Negotiating Council and the federal government. But the process delayed, and therefore they reported to us. They are our affiliates. There are about 7 unions in the Joint Public Service Negotiating Council. 6 of the unions are affiliates of NLC. 1 of them is an affiliate of TUC. So they reported to us that negotiations have broke down, and they want us actually to come and support. That is how NLC and TUC were invited by a government to actually participate in the process of this negotiation. There are other different platforms. In the organized private sector, you have different platforms. You have platform in the textile industry, you have platform in the construction industry, and therefore where each of the centers have members, they will be invited and they will be free to participate in the process of addressing the issue. So I think the facts must be made very clear that the unions are involved, are affiliates of both TUC and NLC, and that's why we are invited actually to come and support them, and we thought that we shouldn't actually allow the process to delay, and that's how we came in, and there was an amicable resolution. If you look at the agreement, NLC and TUC signed as witnesses. But the main parties are the Joint Public Service Negotiating Council, both trade union side and also the official side, which is the government side.
Just quickly now to say that, for the average worker, what they're interested in is the fact that their accounts need to be credited. Did the Joint Negotiations Committee agree on a timeline for commencement of payment?
Yes, it's going to be with immediate effect, because you are aware that Mr. President assented to the bill or the act precisely on the 18th of April 2019. And from that day, it has become a law. What has delayed the process actually for level 7s to 17 is actually this issue of consequential adjustment. In fact, workers on grade level 0, 1 to 6 have already started enjoying this minimum wage in the core civil service. And also the issue of the states. and also organized private sector. The conclusion of the consequential adjustment by the federal government also now put up a pace for all the states to key in, because some days ago you had some states giving excuse that they are waiting for the federal government to actually provide the pace for the consequential adjustment also to take place in their own states. So with what has taken place, it means no state, no local government, no organized private sector will have any excuse for delay any longer. So these have actually set the pace, and therefore it should be with effect from when the law was signed into, when the act was signed into law.
All right, President of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Ayuba Waba, thanks for breaking that down for us on the news at 10 tonight. Thank you. And in part 2, after the break, Onitsha residents continue to count their losses as another petrol tanker explodes in the commercial city, the second in 1 week. That's in a moment. Please stay with us.